My name's Fred. I drink beer. Welcome to the next edition of Beer from My Basement. Today I'm going to be doing some old ales and barley wines, stronger beers, all from the U.S. I'm going to start off with a Avery Old Jubilation from Avery in Boulder, Colorado. Now I don't know the date of this. It's with another beer which you'll see later, that was bottled in 2005. So my guess is this is somewhere around that time. It doesn't have an alcohol percentage on the label, but on their website it says it's, I think, about 8.5–9%. And I haven't had this one in many years, so I have no idea what it's like. So let's give it a try. They're pretty much flat when opening it. So let's see what we get as I pour. And not much carbonation left. I don't know whether this is bottle conditioned, so I'm going to be careful. So nice color and a nice aroma. Mostly, there's maybe a little bit of something in there that's, well, we'll find out. It's maybe a tad too cold. I tried to let it warm up. Tastes like an old barley wine or an old ale. Not much bitterness left. You get a lot of malty sweetness and oxidized sherry notes, but in a good way. You say really no carbonation at all, which is surprising. It's it's a regular cap. It's not a twist off, and I didn't see any problem. The cap looks fine. So, not totally unsurprising. That does lend evidence that it is probably from 2005 or sooner. I'm going to just arbitrarily say 2005. Avery, say in Boulder, Colorado, they're well-known brewery. I remember at the time that I bought this, we hadn't gotten a lot of their beers, and they had just started, or at least in my local beer store, it just showed up. They're kind of, some of their hoppy beers and stronger hoppy beers are well known. I don't think I've ever seen the Old Jubilation on draft at a pub around here. But that's not surprising. It's a seasonal beer. It's a winter, Christmas type beer, as you could kind of guess from the name. I'm going to let this warm up a bit, and I'll be back and talk a little bit more about it. Okay. So I'm back with my Avery Old Jubilation from 2005-ish. I'm still liking it. There's I can't really identify it. There's almost a sweetness. Maybe it's a chocolate note to it. Almost like a bitter chocolate, dark chocolate, which wouldn't be surprising. I have maybe probably have 3 or 4 bottles. Maybe I had 4, and now I have 3 of this. So we'll have it another time, and if I can find another beer to pair it with, maybe we'll do that. I don't have any stories to tell you about Avery. I've never been there. I don't know anybody from there. I like their beers. They're always one if I see it, I'm traveling somewhere in the States, and they have an Avery beer, and they don't have a local beer I'm interested in, I'll order one of theirs. So Um, it's kind of a short segment, but that's really all I have to say about this one. I'm going to finish this one up and enjoy it, and then we'll move on to the next beer, which is another one from the same time frame that I guess I had one when I bought it, but I don't remember it at all. So we'll see in a bit. Okay, I'm back. My second beer today is Stoudts Fat Dog, which they describe as a bottle-conditioned oatmeal imperial stout from the Stoudts Brewery of Adamstown, Pennsylvania. And you may remember last week I had one of their triples, which didn't work out that well. So let's try the imperial stout. It's a little bit of a hiss. Now there's no alcohol on the bottle. By the way, it does have a bottling date. It says bottled in 2005, 4/21/2005, which is the same bottling date as the triple we had the other day. So let's see how this one goes. Well, it's dark, but it should be dark. It's got a little more carbonation in it than the Avery. Not a whole lot. There's no alcohol listed on the bottle, but the website says it's 8.5%. It's got a nice color, maybe a little muddy. It is bottle conditioned, and I tried to do a careful pour, but I may have gotten some sediment. Not much in the nose. It sort of a metallic, a little bit of a metallic note. You know, the old sort of copper penny, and maybe a little bit of malt. Well, let's give it a try. Well, it's not bad. It's certainly better than lasted better than the triple. Yeah, again, I'm kind of getting the copper penny metallic, which is not a good sign. And there's a little bit of sweetness, not much, a little bit of bitterness, and some sherry notes. Yeah, I'm going to have to let this one sit for a bit, and we'll see. This may be a short one. I have an extra beer, I have an emergency beer today just in case, because I figure chances are one of these were going to be less than enjoyable. So I'm going to take a little quick break and let it settle for a bit, and we'll be back. Okay, I'm back with the Stoudts Fat Dog Oatmeal Imperial Stout from 2005. And sadly, this is going to be, I think, the first dumper of this series. I'm just not going to be able to finish it. It's I'll try one more sip, but it's just the metallic thing on it, and there's it's not really sourness, but there's a bit of acidity there too that I just don't like, and it's not enjoyable, and too many beers to try. So it's too bad, because I have a story about stouts. I actually visited the brewery in late '93 or early '94. I met Carol Stout and her husband Ed. They owned a fancy steakhouse restaurant kind of out on the roadhouse kind of thing, out in the middle of nowhere. And I was a new home brewer then, and they were very nice, took me around, showed me the brewery, tasted some beers. I remember at the time that they only did bottling in 750 champagne style bottles, because that's the only capper, the bottling machine they had, which was like really, really old, like 50, 60, 70 years old. the time. They like resurrected it from a museum or a barn somewhere and got it working, and so they did these big, they were green 750 champagne bottles, kind of like what you see cider in, sparkling cider. And eventually they switched to the standard 12-ounce brown bottles, and I don't remember if they were, I think they said they were planning on that when I was there, but it's hard to know. It was a long time ago. But their beers are always good. Originally they were known for their lagers, because that was just sort of the inspiration. There was some, Pennsylvania had strange laws. Lots of states do, and Pennsylvania may still have them for all I know. But you couldn't, if you had a liquor license, meaning you're going to sell spirits, you couldn't have a brew pub license or a brewery license. So the brewery was in her name, and I remember thinking at the time, in Carol Stoudt's name, and she was very much involved in the brewery, but I sort of got the impression that it was his idea and it was in her name as a to get by the legal requirements. Now, reading on the website, they say it was totally her idea, and I don't have any reason to doubt that she was inspired by a trip to Germany with some German lagers, which was why they started doing lagers initially. Either way, she was definitely involved in the brewing and knowledgeable about the brewing process. So however it started out, it was clearly her brewery at that time. And say I had an enjoyable time. I had a client in Harrisburg, and I had a free Saturday, because those days you had to stay over Saturday night to get the cheap airfare. And so I drove out there and had a good time. I remember I didn't bring back any bottles because they only had the 750s, and that was just like too heavy. But I do remember when I saw it in early 2000s that it showed up here, and I bought I think 2 6-packs, one of the triple and one of the Old Dog, Fat Dog, sorry. And I don't think I drank very many of them, so I have a bunch left, and sadly I don't think they're going to be making on future shows. So unless I find one in better condition, unless this was a one-off. Okay, well, I'm gonna pause now and get ready for the next beer, which hopefully is in better shape. But it's from a nearby brewery, in the sense that it's in the same state. So see you soon. Okay, I'm back, and my next beer today, kind of keeping with the old theme, is a Victory Old Horizontal. 11% alcohol, barley wine style ale. They have to say the style, or at least they used to, because the ATF got upset with the barley wine because it's not wine. You know, they said you can't call it a barley wine because it's not made from grapes, it's not made from fruit. So barley wine style ale. I don't have a date on it. I think it's older than the previous two. I think it's from the early 2000s. I have a case of it, but I couldn't get at the back of the box where I think the date is on. So I'm going to say 2002. That's just a wild guess. It's another one I used to drink a fair amount of, but haven't had recently. So we'll see what. Not much hiss. And let's see how it pours. Yeah, not much carbonation, so yeah, almost none. So I don't know whether this is bottle conditioned or not. The label, not much of interesting. Brewed and bottled at Victory Brewing at our sole location in Downingtown, PA. Signed by Bill and Ron, the brewmasters. I mean, not really signed, but their signatures on the label. Now, this is their seasonal winter brew. Yeah, no mention of spices on the label. I don't remember any spices. So let's see how this. It's a nice color. Say just a little bit of carbonation, but not much. Oh, it's got a nice, nice old aroma. Okay, this one is survived. It's nice and sweet, sherry notes. It's not a fruit. I'm not getting like raisin and prune kind of dried fruit. It's more of a malty sweetness. A little bit almost a little bit of burntness in the nose, so that might be roast malt. I could have used roast malt or black malt for the color. Say my nose doesn't work as well as it used to. Not much else. Getting a little bit of alcohol. Yeah, I think this one I'll enjoy. I have probably, well, I bought a case of it. I'm not sure how much is left. Probably two-thirds of a case, maybe. The case is kind of hard to reach. It's got stuff piled on it, so I kind of just like tore a hole in the lid, and I kind of have to reach in and pull out a bottle. So I have to gauge by how far back I go. But I say this one it's pretty much the beer's pretty much warmed up to a nice temperature. But I'm gonna let it sit for a bit and enjoy it, and I'll be back with my thoughts in a minute. Okay, I'm back with my Victory Old Horizontal from, I'm going to say 2002, sometime around 2000. Sort of, it's like doing an archaeological dig where I put that box. It was next. It could have even been 99. It was next to a 1999 case of Bigfoot. So it's hard to tell. Some point I'll get the box out and look at the label. And I do have another case, I think it's unopened, of a later Old Horizontal, so from a few years later. So at some point maybe I'll do a side by side. Okay, I'm still enjoying this. It's held up well. You know, I remember old time brewer, guy who taught me a lot about judging and commenting on beers. He had a great saying. Would be, "I'd like it better if." Now, sometimes this was in dealing with home brewers. Sometimes it would be, "I'd like it better if you control your damn fermentation temperature." He would be much more polite about it. I would like this beer a bit more if there was a bit more bitterness to it, and I realize that's probably not their style. But the sweetness is getting a little cloying, and it wouldn't need to be much, just a little bit more bitterness in it. So if I had a time machine and go back 20 some odd years and say, put some more bittering hops in there, dudes. Now, Victory is one of those beers that I drank mostly up to that time when I was traveling back east. I used to have a few clients back there, and I would always be on the lookout for an interesting beer. And I remember their Victory's of Prima Pils was one of the first really good hoppy lagers that I had, American lagers, and they had a nice, I'm trying to remember, they had a Belgian style, a Golden Monkey, that was good, and the V12 was their even stronger beer. And eventually they came, I want to say around 2000 or so, and I don't remember the timeline. They started to be available in California. And I met one of the brewers, I think it was Ron, and I don't remember his last name. He came to a beer dinner that I was at, a beer tasting that I was at. And he had said California was one of the first places they expanded to because he was from California or had gone to school in California. So he wanted, was very proud to have his beers in California. And for that, I'm thankful. I never made it to the brewery. Say it's in Downingtown, PA, and Pennsylvania, and I actually don't even know what part of the state that is. I mean, it's sometimes forget Pennsylvania is quite a large state. I used to do some work in State College at Penn State, and then I had a client in Harrisburg, and that's really all I've been. I've never, taken the train through Philadelphia, and that's about it. So sorry to all you Pennsylvania folks, but I do like their beers, and say this one is held up, and I'm really rambling at this point. And there's good rambling and bad rambling, and this is the bad rambling because I'm just babbling. I'll finish this beer, and I have time for one more, and I sort of expected one of these might not be so good, so I have another beer from around the same time frame to try in a minute. So we'll see you soon. So I'm back for the last beer of the day, and it's a 2002 Bigfoot barley wine style ale. Now I don't know if you can see that the cap is fairly rusted. This beer's been in my fridge for probably 10 years or so, but it was a short bottle and it got kind of pushed to the back, and it was one of the ones I discovered the other day when I discovered that Westmalle triple. So that's from being, refrigerators are moist environment, so it rusted a bit. Now this is in the screw off cap days, so I expect this to be totally flat, but would be pleasantly surprised. There was a little bit of a hiss, so it wasn't totally flat. So we'll see how it pours. Oh, it's still, I say this may have the most carbonation of the day. Got a nice little bit of head and nice color. It's a little bit lighter than the other ones. And it smells like Bigfoot. I smell some hops. I mean, there's a little bit of hops and malt. And it's a little colder than I thought. I may need to clean the glass a bit to get the little bit of condensation. But once you see that, yes, I can see holding it up to my light that there's a little, it's coming through kind of a dark red. Oh, this is still very good. Being in the fridge helped, I'm sure. There's a lot of bitterness, a lot of maltiness. I don't really get the hop flavor you get from the original, but there's still some in the nose. That blew me away, that it still smells like a hoppy beer. Well, this is by far the best beer of the day. So 2002 Bigfoot. Now, I have to keep this. It's too bad the cap is in such sad shape. I was looking on the internet. I'm drinking this from a generic Teku glass, which is a nice glass, and I know a lot of people make fun of them, but I like them. But I thought, well, maybe I have all this Bigfoot, I should have a Bigfoot glass. So I'm like on eBay, and the glasses I saw were in the $70-$80, which tells me that I guess they don't make them anymore. But there were people who were selling Bigfoot caps from the 90s for $10 each. And it's like, shoot, I've been throwing them away. It's like $10 every time, $10 in the trash. So that's not to say that they're getting $10 for them, you know, you list anything. And I was looking for a Thomas Hardy glass, and the same way I saw some empty Thomas Hardy bottles going for $20. It's like, shoot, you know, I've been throwing away money all these years. So I will keep the Bigfoot caps and the Thomas Hardy bottles, which the Thomas Hardy bottles are labeled with the year. In fact, even have a serial number on them. This, the Bigfoots don't have anything, the big feet don't have anything about the year on the label itself. It just says alcohol 9.6 by volume, brewed and bottled by Sierra Nevada Brewing, Chico, California, barley wine style ale. And they did change the label. This is the old label. The newer ones have a slightly modernized label. And can I tell? It doesn't show up, but they do have. I can see it, but I'm sure the camera won't. But if you look under the Bigfoot, there's a little cartoon underneath the cap of a Bigfoot sitting around the campfire enjoying a beer. So my story about Bigfoot is the first time I tasted it, I was a new home brewer. I've been home brewing maybe 6 months, and of course it comes out in the fall, winter, and I tasted it, you know, with some people, and a guy had a bottle, and he opened it, and I was just blown away. It was like, wow. And being a newbie home brewer, a grasshopper, I said, oh man, I wonder what the recipe is. You know, the guy whose bottle it was and who was an experienced home brewer, and say this would have been 93, said more. So what do you mean more? He says, whatever you think it has more. It's got more hops, it's got more malt, it's got more alcohol. And it's like, yeah, more. So here's to more. I'm going to let this one, I'm going to enjoy this one, and I'll be back with some final comments in a little bit. Okay, I'm back with my 2002 Bigfoot barley wine. Technically barley wine style ale, but I'll call it a barley wine. I'm really enjoying this one. This is the best of the bunch today. Two of the others were good. I had one dumper, but you know, them's the chances you take when you stick beer in your cellar, in your basement. I have almost a full case of the 2002 left, though this one, say, has been refrigerated for a bit. So it'll be interesting to see how the other ones compare. And one of these days I'll bring out a bunch of Bigfoots. And I also have North Coast old stock that parallel a bunch of years the same. So bunch of ideas in mind for future episodes. By the way, just to remind you, hit the thumbs up to like the video, and be sure and subscribe. Hope to do these weekly, and you know, I'm up to 20 subscribers this week. You know, that's +1, so I view that as a positive. Nobody's unsubscribed yet. I've enjoyed doing them. I hope you enjoy watching them as much as I do. And I've got some interesting beers planned for the weeks ahead, so be sure and check us out again. So now all I need is a catchy tune for the end credits, which is like Beer by Fred. Anyway, good beers to you. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.